Thank you. Ken Horton.
Good evening, council. After watching the November 23rd council meeting video posted on jeffcomo.org, I was stunned at a conversation that was captured on an open mic between Councilman Terry and Executive Waller. This conversation occurred right after the council voted to recess and go into closed session. The council had just taken 2 votes regarding the Morse Mill Quarry in District 7. Councilman Terry voted yes on both occasions. On each of these votes, he was the 3rd person to cast his vote. After the vote was taken to recess, Mr. Terry walked up to Executive Waller in a combative manner, and the following conversation was caught on Mr. Waller's mic, which was still on. For those of you who want to hear for yourselves this conversation, it happens at the 2-hour and 52-minute mark. Mr. Terry, quote, "Ken, hey, I don't appreciate you calling on me first. I would have had an opportunity to vote no on these if you had called me last." Mr. Waller, "Well, but what I'm trying to do is if somebody makes an amendment, I'm starting with them first." Mr. Terry, "You see my point though. I could have voted no on these and now I'm the bad guy. I always voted no on these." Mr. Waller, "I didn't do it purposely." Mr. Terry, "Yeah, I'm just telling you I can always do an amendment. Doesn't mean I'm going to vote for it. I don't like that." With respect, Mr. Terry, you have a bright future in DC if you choose to run for a seat that would land you there. Mr. Terry was infuriated because he usually gets the vote last. Roll call votes needed for passage or opposition of a bill have already been obtained. He is then free to vote for or against the issue for political reasons. In this case, there were many residents who showed up to speak against the quarry, so Mr. Terry, I'm guessing, wanted to be the hero of those in attendance and vote no after the 4 votes in favor had already been obtained. His plan was foiled when he was called 3rd in the roll. This kind of dishonesty and game playing by Mr. Terry should not be tolerated by voters in his district, Jefferson County as a whole, or other members of the council. This is not the first time he has played games like this. He oftentimes proposes amendments to bills which are adopted, then turns around and votes against the bill in final passage. In the political world, as I am accustomed, amendments are offered by those trying to improve a bill to make it acceptable for them to vote yes. If you're not in favor of a bill from the outset, quit wasting everybody's time with amendments. How can anyone trust what you're saying after hearing that conversation? In order to save politicians like Mr. Terry from himself, I am asking Executive Waller, with the consent of the council, to start staggering the order of all roll call votes. It's pretty pathetic that an action like this has to be taken to prevent this from happening, but it's just the reality. I may be wrong, and Mr. Terry has a perfectly good explanation for his actions. I doubt it. But I would like to offer him the remaining time to hear it. What say you, Councilman Terry? What did you mean when you said I would have voted no if you called me last?
I plead guilty. I mean, the truth is, it's easier. It's convenient to be the last one called, because you're right. I can vote the way people want me to vote, but your point's well taken. If I vote first, I'm going to vote the way my conscience says. I don't see anything particularly wrong with that.
So you have no problem of saying, well, I really was going to vote no, but since the 4 votes are out, I don't get that. I'm going to vote yes, but I would have voted no. I heard this in Washington. You were before you were against it. This is a whole new level. You were against it before you were for it, before you were against it.
I thought I made myself clear. I would have preferred to not have to vote for it, but The truth is, I was for it. I thought the business wanted to expand, and I didn't think it was right for us not to let him expand. It's that simple.
Well, I'm sure you're familiar with the expression, when you're digging yourself a hole, put the shovel down. I would put the shovel down. Thank you, council.
Thank you.
And I don't even object if Mr. Waller wants to take that approach.
John Stelzer.